Circus is back in town. Although I'm kind of being real though. This feels like a little bit less of a farce than when like those misfit clowns, for example, put on an embarrassing card of their own.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about Jake Paul and Mike Perry. I'm kind of glad about this one in a way, because at least we've kind of been spared getting Mike in there, at least for the time being.
Yeah.
And hopefully if we get the result we want, we may not ever see that fight, which is kind of what I'm going to talk about in a bit.
Which would be great.
So yeah, Mike Perry versus Jake Paul. Who you got?
Man, so when I initially, of course, remember, I brought this up, before, that this should be the fight. And in saying that, when I did, the reason that I wanted that to be the fight was because I was all in on the Mike Perry, kind of hype train, if you will.
I'm one of the most savage people who stepped foot in a bare knuckle boxing ring.
And, just what he's done in bare knuckle boxing. And my immediate thoughts were, he's just going to smash this dude.
And I love breaking their hands with my forehead too. So, just tune in for blood and bone.
Like, he's going to beat him. But then you reminded me that Mike Perry, his stature compared to Jake Paul's stature, it's a pretty stark, difference. Jake Paul is a big dude, and Mike Perry is not in comparison. And you add that into the fact that this is not a tough contest. If it's a tough man contest, I'm taking Mike Perry all day long. But this is not what this is. They're fighting with larger gloves. And that right there takes away a big part of Mike Perry's game, especially when it's in bare knuckle or anything with smaller gloves, is that ability to out-tough his opponent. So his margin for error gets very, very slim when it comes to that. And Jake Paul is a better technical boxer at this point. Kind of odd for me to say that at this point, but that's the truth. That's what he's been training in exclusively. So I don't want to say that Jake Paul's going to win this fight, but every marker that you would normally, like taking the names out and saying fighter A and fighter B, everything leans his way. And it's actually been fashioned for him to win at the weight class that he chose. So, I want Mike Perry to win this fight very, very, very badly.
That talk? What the fuck? Your brain is toxic. Your hair is receding, bro. I got a beautiful head of hair.
But I think that Jake Paul's going to win.
How do you think he's going to get it done?
I don't think that he can stop Mike Perry. I think it's very hard for anybody to stop Mike Perry that's not able to grapple him and submit him. I feel like knocking him out is kind of like trying to knock out Nate. It's very, very difficult, and very few have been able to do anything close to it. And I think it's going to be the same. I think that he outpoints him some sort of way. But I hope that that's not what happens. I really hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah. I've been pretty much consistent about this one since this fight was announced, and I'm kind of with you, but I'm kind of going to take it a little bit of a step further. I think Jake Paul's going to knock Mike Perry the fuck out.
Because you dumb.
And I think he's going to do it within 3 rounds. Like the issue that I have with this one, and the most scary thing about this matchup, is like, to the masses, and as you said when you wanted the fight to be made, it looks like the fairest potential fight that Jake Paul's been offered so far. But we have to kind of remember that this weasel never goes in there without some kind of advantage. Like, Askren wasn't a boxer. Woodley was kind of washed, gun shy. Silva was really ancient. The only fight that he's really lost has been against Tommy Fury, who was probably, on paper, the fairest matchup in terms of he's young, got some kind of boxing pedigree, very limited boxing pedigree outside of the family name, but there's tangibles there where you can say, you know, this is more even on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And outside of that fight, like, Perry seems like the most legit threat. But like, I'm sorry to break this to anyone listening, and I really love Mike Perry. I don't think this is going to offer the threat that people think it's going to.
Tell me, you didn't just say that.
You mentioned Perry being undersized, which is a really big factor. But I think another aspect to it is Perry is not technical in the slightest. And the worrying thing for me with this is, like you said, in this realm, Paul's going to be bigger. He was pretty much training and conditioning himself to get up to a heavyweight limit. We don't know what fight the weight's going to be at. I imagine it will be in and around 190 pounds. I'm assuming, for Perry's sake. Now, I'm with you. Like, I really want Perry to win this fight, and not just win it, but win it brutally.
I got a beautiful head of hair.
So that the Tyson fight does get cancelled, because if Jake obviously gets flatlined, the Tyson fight goes out the window. I just don't think that's what's going to happen. What I am going to do to kind of soften this situation for me, though, is I am going to put like a fat stack on Jake Paul, so that at least if he does get bonked, I'll kind of be happy either way. And that's how I'm going to handle this entire situation.
Yeah, that's fair, man. I mean, have you seen the lines already?
Yeah, I have. It's Paul is, I think, a minus 175, and you can get Perry at about plus 225, which is probably about. I mean, I say it's probably about right. I was expecting it to be wider, if I'm being real.
Yeah, I was thinking, you know, in the plus 200s, you know, in that range, only because I feel like people aren't seeing it the way that we just described it, as far as the size disparity, the skill and technique disparity. There is a skill disparity. The only thing that Perry has on him is, and I don't think Paul has terrible heart. Like, he's been caught a couple of times, and he's come, like, he got caught by Woodley in the first fight and managed to compose himself and go on to win the fight. He had a few moments of difficulty against Anderson Silva, who's no joke. Tommy Fury obviously clipped him a couple of times. He's proven he can take a little bit of a shot. And I don't know with Perry's not the quickest. He's not the most technical. And it is in bigger, larger gloves at a weight class that's probably he's going to be making a compromise with the weight, regardless of if it's, he might just be stupid enough and say, oh, fuck it, man, we'll do it at 205, which would be really dumb. Yeah, that would be
But I think
terrible.
even at 190. And if Perry's dumb enough to do something like that, I'm sorry. And again, I love Mike.
Yeah.
But,
I think he's losing his biggest attribute, and that's his toughness. Like, if he's not able to use that as a weapon to say, I will go through more than you will, then he's at a really big disadvantage.
I don't see him winning it. I don't see him winning it. Like, I'd like to think that if he does lose, it will be by decision, but I just have a feeling he's going to get, and Perry has been hurt before.
Yeah.
Recency bias, because obviously
if this was in bare knuckle, I'm taking Mike Perry. Like, because there's the suffering part of it, and I feel like Mike Perry is able to suffer more than Jake Paul. Paul's not used to that kind of suffering.
Yeah, from what we've seen so far, it's a completely different thing. It's like we saw it with Luke Rockhold, for example, who, as soon as he got severely injured or severely hurt in that fight, a broken tooth or whatever it was, he quit immediately.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who's been in constant combat situations, in varying degrees, and he quit instantly. So in that context, obviously you take Mike Perry all day, but it ain't that context.
It's not.
So, but yeah, let us know what you guys think in the comments anyway, who you think's going to win and how.